Marvel wants to bring the Young Avengers together, but that's gonna be trouble. We've had hints of this group forming since Phase 4 started. America Chavez showed up in Doctor Strange 2. Patriot appeared in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Wanda's kids appeared in WandaVision. Billy Maximoff came back in Agatha, and Tommy was mentioned in that show. Ironheart popped up in Wakanda Forever. Cassie Lang turned into a superhero in Quantumania. We saw Kid Loki in The Void. Kate Bishop teamed up with Clint Barton in Hawkeye. And Miss Marvel starred in her own show.
There are too many of them!
We have almost all the comic book members of the Young Avengers now. Kamala met up with Kate Bishop in the last scene of the Marvels, and Wiccan said he's going to find his brother Speed. So it's just a matter of time before Marvel gathers all these Avengers babies in a future project. I get why they want to do it. These characters can be fun to watch. They have a different vibe from the original Avengers. And most importantly, they could bring in younger fans, an audience Marvel isn't reaching right now. Deadpool and Wolverine and No Way Home were massive hits, but they mainly targeted millennials, those of us who watched Marvel movies before Marvel Studios even existed. Secret Wars will probably be a tribute to all the universes that came before the MCU too.
What are you trying to say?
It's like the MCU isn't even trying to reach teenagers or kids right now. You'd almost have to have been born before 2000 to be a fan. The Young Avengers could solve that issue and help Marvel grow its audience. But I don't think doing this is a great idea, at least not right now. They've got a serious timing problem. The MCU calendar is fully booked until the end of 2027. If they want the Young Avengers to assemble before Doomsday, they should already be working on that project right now because Doomsday comes out in May 2026. There's only one open spot left in the schedule, November 2025, which was recently freed up after Blade was delayed indefinitely. But they can't slot the Young Avengers in there because they should have already started shooting this movie. They haven't even started writing the script yet. Plus, they haven't really introduced Tommy Maximoff, who's supposedly debuting in Vision Quest, a series that doesn't have a release date yet. There's no way we're seeing the Young Avengers before Doomsday. But if they bring them together after Doomsday, that'll feel super weird. Are we really going to see the Young Avengers between two Avengers movies? How does that even make sense? Secret Wars is supposed to act as a soft reboot where the whole multiverse is at risk. Are we supposed to believe that this team of sidekicks is key to stopping the incursions? That might have worked with the original plan when Kang was set to be the villain for Avengers 5. In the comics, one of the Young Avengers, Iron Lad, is a variant of Kang who hasn't become a villain yet. Marvel could have used that subplot to tie a Young Avengers movie to Avengers 5. But with Kang out of the equation, that idea now feels pretty patched together.
I don't want to see that!
The Young Avengers' most famous storyline is the Children's Crusade, where they all unite to fight Doctor Doom after he brainwashes Scarlet Witch. I admit an adaptation of that storyline might make sense after Doomsday. Doom could merge the entire multiverse together at the end of that movie, using Wanda's power instead of acquiring the power of the Beyonders, like he did in the comics. Or he could manipulate Wanda, and the Young Avengers might unite in a crossover to free her. Billy and Tommy would reunite with their mom, just like in the comic. But does adapting that story actually make sense? We've already seen Wanda's turn to the dark side and redemption arc 3 times in the last 10 years. I'd like to see her back before Secret Wars with a big role because she's the MCU's best female character. But they'd need to tell a new story to avoid feeling repetitive. Probably a totally new story set in Battleworld. The Young Avengers project would arrive in late 2026 after Spider-Man 4. But in that case, there'd be a second problem. What format would they appear in? If they make a movie for theaters, a ton of people would complain that Marvel is replacing the original Avengers with a group of teens. It'd be different if we had an established Avengers team in the MCU with all the members fans want to see, the classic comic book characters. But Iron Man's gone, Steve Rogers retired, Hulk isn't Savage anymore, and we don't know what's going on with Thor, who's now mostly comic relief.
You're a funny guy!
How do you explain to people that you're releasing a movie about the Young Avengers without having the original Avengers around? Maybe the audience would accept it if the new characters were as beloved as the originals, or even better, but the only characters who are widely accepted are Kate Bishop and Wiccan. The others have had pretty mixed receptions. They're nowhere close to being as loved as the first Avengers lineup was. And you know what that means. It's Captain Marvel all over again. Black Widow and Wanda fans felt betrayed by the studio because Disney chose to greenlit a solo project for Carol Danvers before exploring the female characters already established in the MCU. Now they'd be prioritizing the Young Avengers over the real Avengers.
It's not even the original lineup!
I know these characters exist in the comics, and I'm all for sidekicks having their time to shine. Look at what DC did. Young Justice is one of DC's best animated shows, and it stars the sidekicks, not Superman and Batman. But in Young Justice's universe, the Justice League exists. They're just not the focal point. Meanwhile, the Avengers don't exist in the MCU right now. That's the difference. It'd make sense to introduce a team of adult Avengers first, and then introduce the sidekick group. But we're only gonna see a full Avengers team after Secret Wars, once Marvel does a soft reboot and introduces the new Captain America and new Iron Man, probably with new actors. That doesn't sound so bad. But Secret Wars won't be in theaters until 2027, which means the Young Avengers wouldn't show up until late 2027, or even 2028.
That's a long time.
The problem with waiting so long is that the actors playing these characters aren't going to get any younger. By 2028, Joe Locke will be 25, Iman Vellani will be 26, and Haley Steinfeld, Dominique Thorne, and Catherine Newton will all be 31. Are the Young Avengers really going to come together for the first time at their 30s? And it gets worse. They're all TV characters. Except for Ironheart and Cassie Lang, everyone else was introduced in Disney Plus shows. Hardcore MCU fans know who they are because they watch all things Marvel puts out, but a good chunk of casual viewers don't watch any of the series. A lot of people don't even know who Kate Bishop is. Hardly anyone remembers Kid Loki. And The Marvels is proof that bringing TV characters to the big screen isn't an easy task. They made a movie with 3 lead characters, 2 of whom were introduced in Disney Plus shows, and nobody went to see it. The Marvels had the worst box office record in MCU history, even without adjusting the numbers for inflation. Sure, The Marvels didn't flop just because of its TV tie-ins, but Captain America 4 isn't getting much hype either. Part of the problem is that Marvel turned Sam Wilson into a TV character. What makes them think that won't happen with the Young Avengers too? On top of that, none of these characters are popular enough to carry a franchise on their own. To most people, Hawkeye is still Clint Barton. Ironheart's never going to replace Iron Man. Miss Marvel is seen as a secondary character, and Wanda's kids are exactly that. Wanda's kids, not standalone characters. Of course, Wiccan and Speed can star in solo projects disconnected from Scarlet Witch, but Wanda has had way more stories in the comics and is much more well known.
I don't follow.
Let's take Wiccan as an example. Joe Locke did a great job in Agatha, but he was still a supporting character in a series about a side character. It'll be really hard for Marvel to turn any of these sidekicks into huge, box office breaking characters with star power. If they'd wanted to do that, they should have introduced them as major characters, like they did with Shang-Chi, who debuted in theaters, not on a TV show. It might sound harsh, but people aren't going to rush to theaters to watch sidekick characters introduced in a show they didn't even watch. But let's be optimistic. Let's say Marvel plans to bring the team together in 2026 and writes an amazing story for the Young Avengers. They're universally loved, and nobody even misses the original Avengers. Marvel makes a Disney Plus series to bring subscribers to the platform with a true event that's not filler. And since no Marvel show has the same impact as their theater releases, the negative reactions wouldn't be as bad. There'd still be one more issue: the money. A Young Avengers show would be super expensive. People would expect action, tons of fights, supervillains, and special effects in every episode. They couldn't just make it a family-centered show like Ms. Marvel, and they couldn't do it for just $180 million like Agatha, which barely has any outdoor scenes. They couldn't even get by with practical effects because the powers of several characters require work in post. There's no way to recreate practically America Chavez's portals, Wiccan's magical powers, or Miss Marvel's giant hands. They'd need to sink quite a few million into this series. Are they really going to spend more than $200 million on a Young Avengers show, knowing they'll be at a loss because they won't get that money back? Or are they going to do a cheap show like CW usually does? If they go the cheap route, they might avoid big losses, but people will tear it apart, and they'll probably lose Disney Plus subscribers rather than gain them. But let's stay positive. Let's say Marvel throws all the money they can into this show to make it the best project possible, even if they lose money, knowing they'll make it up with Secret Wars. They wasted $200 million on Secret Invasion, and no one liked that show, so they can spend even more money with the Young Avengers, even if Bob Iger said Marvel needs to make fewer series, not more.
Must stay positive.
There's only one way this could work. They should bring these sidekicks together in a second season of Miss Marvel or Hawkeye, which would give those series more weight. This could be Marvel's first real crossover for Disney Plus. They could start forming the team without giving them a name. They shouldn't call themselves Avengers yet, at least not until after Secret Wars, once we've been introduced to the new Avengers. That way, they'd avoid a lot of problems. Fans of the original Avengers wouldn't be upset. The show wouldn't be as expensive, since the team would only use their powers together at the end of the season, not in every episode, and they wouldn't have to wait until the actors are 40 to bring them together. This series could work as a preview for a future Young Avengers project that would come in the next saga. And if Marvel wants to market this new group, they could call them Champions, another sidekick team from the comics that coincidentally included both Miss Marvel and Ironheart.
Coincidence?
The funny thing is, none of this would be a problem if Marvel had gone with a different strategy after Endgame. If they'd introduced these characters naturally in theaters instead of dropping them in TV shows, they'd already have everything set for a Young Avengers movie. But that was one of their big mistakes after the Infinity Saga. We explained the other mistakes in this video over here.
You interested?